Hello and welcome to the Eye Candy channel. Today we're going to be talking about the 180 degree rule, which is the rule that when you have a frame rate, for example 25 frames per second, to get the correct motion blur, you should be using a shutter speed which is double the frame rate. So if your frame rate is 25, you should be using a shutter speed of 1/50th. Now this rule is actually a misconception, and I don't really agree with this rule in some ways. It's good in general, meaning if you're filming something happening, you should definitely try and aim for 180 degrees. But there's a situation where this is not a good idea. Like, for example, when you are filming in slow motion, meaning let's say you're filming at 180 frames per second or 120 frames per second. Now, the movement is so slow that you won't actually get any motion blur if your shutter speed is double that. So if you have a 180 frames per second and your shutter speed is 360 frames per second, that shutter speed is so high that you're actually losing on any motion blur. And besides, a subject that's moving so slowly won't even have motion blur because it's so slow. So what you want to do is actually lower the shutter speed, make it as close as possible to the frame rate, meaning for a 180 frames per second video, you definitely want to try and use a 200 shutter speed so that you'll actually get some motion blur, which is what you want. Because if you up the shutter speed so much, you'll actually lose the motion blur completely. So again, when filming in slow motion, you can break the 180 degree rule. When you're filming in normal speed, then definitely try and keep to the 180 degree shutter rule. This will help your videos maintain the natural motion blur which you always want in your videos, regardless of what frame rate you're using. This was the Eye Candy channel. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.